Okay, so we will get started. This episode is going to be for like all the entrepreneurs that want to know the secret behind Alemi's team. I'm going to be asking her all the questions that we want to know. How do you keep up with this market, this industry with the high pressure? Everything is time sensitive for sure. And you're just an absolute powerhouse here in Ottawa. Slowly taking Ottawa, painting it pink. But I think there's so many things about real estate that could apply to anybody that's trying to build something in their own industry. So how do you keep up, but also keep your wellness a priority? And today you will hear it all.
Yeah, I'm not holding anything back. Definitely not holding any of like what my mistakes were and what were the best things I did so far.
Yeah. So let's start with the beginning. What were some things at the beginning were the first steps when you're like, I'm really going to do this and I'm going to do it big? What did you decide to do?
Yeah, I think like the one thing that made me want to actually start this whole thing was I wanted to be always part of something else, or you join a team. And I tried partnering because I thought, well, I don't want to join a team. I still want to have my own brand. So I started partnering up. But the problem with was done, or it was like done twice. So it was very confusing as to who's doing who. And what the problem was, knew what they had to do, right? Like it was like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna take care of this. And the other thing was also egos, right? Like two people coming together, it's like, okay, this is my vision, and the other person would say, no, this is how I see the team's gotta go. And when it comes to partnership, I seldom saw them ever work out good. I've seen it before with my dad when he was, in business and he had many partners. But for some reason I thought, you know what, I'm different. I'm going to make it work, and partnership never worked for me in business. So I tried that 2 times. And then the other time was I said, you know what, forget about partnership. I don't want to start something from scratch. I just want to join a group, a team. And I thought to that time, like, I found a really, really good team, because this team leader was previously like one of the really big leaders in Ottawa. So I joined this person's team, and soon I found out that the team was very dysfunctional as well. There was like a lot of feast and famine, which, by the way, it's in every single business. But in real estate, it's a lot more because we're like 100% commission. So what happened was I joined this team, and, there was favoritism that was happening. Like there was an agent that was there longer, so they would be getting, all the appointments. I wasn't getting any appointments. I wasn't getting the training. I wasn't getting the support. And, at that point when I joined the team, I was in fact like pregnant. I was about 3 months pregnant, thinking, like, I'm not going to build my brand. I'm not going to have a partnership. I want to go into something solid. But the problem was I found out that the team wasn't solid at all. And from where you're standing as an agent, as an outsider, single agent, trying to join a team, you don't know which team's actually good and not. And, like, in real estate, a lot of people sugarcoat what it is, their achievements, like they say, yes, any agent you ask in the office and at those like brokerages, like the big box brokerages, you go around and you ask them, hey, how's business? How you doing? And every single time they'd say, oh, business is great. It's amazing. I'm so busy. I'm doing so much. And it's funny because on the brokerage side and the broker side, I know I can see people's numbers, and I can see how they're actually doing. And even to this day, when I talk to those agents on the broker in those other brokerages, and I ask them how's business, they don't know that I can see the numbers, and they say, oh yeah, I'm doing fantastic. And I saw that like they did 1 transaction all of last year. So there's a lot of secrets that's kept and in the industry. So when I joined the team, I didn't know that this team was in fact was about to go belly up, really. So I found out that there was a lot of dysfunctions, whether it was between the team members, there was animosity. It wasn't really like a team that was working cohesively together towards a goal. And even with the admin, there was issues there as well. So that's when I realized that, what I have a vision for, it doesn't exist. As much as I want to, I can continue on years after years after years. And at that point, I had already been in business for 4 years. I was like, I'm either going to continue this path and then eventually be part of as you know, there's 80% of agents leave the business within the first 5 years. I'm either going to be part of that, that statistics, or I'm going to figure it out. And so, I researched, and I knew that there are mentorships out there. I knew that there is definitely coaching out there available. And there was one particular coach. There were few big coaches in our industry, as you know. One of them, the manager of our office, was actually a coach for them. And to this day, he's still a coach for them. But what I found out is that coach never did any real estate himself, or if he did, he went bankrupt. And the main guy, he didn't even have a real estate license, yet he was teaching all these scripts and things like that. So it was very, very apparent to me that these guys don't know what they're talking about. All it was accountability. And when I was talking to somebody, they're like, what do you need a coach for? Your family is what keeps you accountable, isn't it? You go home, you see your husband, your kids, they're not fed. That's keeping you accountable. Mm-hmm. And I said, yeah, that makes sense. So for the longest time, I was thinking, yeah, you know what? I don't need a coach. Then I went to see this other coach that was all you got to do is give people gifts all the time, and then they're going to think of you. And I thought, okay, that makes sense. Who doesn't like gifts? But what I found out is if you keep giving people gifts, and you're not doing any business, where's this gifts coming from? I was going into my savings, our family savings, and depleting everything to a point where my husband's like, what's happening? Are you making money? Are you in for business for money, or what's happening? So I found out that obviously that doesn't work either. There was this other coach that I heard about all across, my this town, and I knew all the big agents were being coached by him. But in my head, I was thinking to myself, before I can even afford him. So anyways, long story short, I came across him through another colleague that was working at a RE/MAX office. And I saw that she wasn't doing much of a transaction either, but yet she signed up for him because all her stuff were his material. So I said to her, is this is this person legit, or how are you finding it? And she's like, oh my gosh, you got to see it for yourself, Anna. And I said, can I afford it? I don't know. She's like, honestly, it's worth every penny. You should do it. And at that point, I was making a little bit more, I had a bit of a more traction in the business. So I wanted to know more about him, and I'm like, you know what, let me just go to his half-day conference and whatnot in Toronto. And my coach, by the way, is Craig Proctor. So I end up signing up for his program. And then when I went there, I realized, okay, you know what? He's got the systems. I can follow them. I trust myself. It's hard because whenever you have a team leader or somebody else that's leading you, you kind of trust them, right? You have to trust them. You're like, you know what? They're going to make the right decisions for me. And in the past, when I joined other teams, while some of them may have had, some good training, but they weren't really following the steps. And, that's where it was lacking. So when I went to his conference and I found out about all these I'm going to do this. And it really aligned with what I had envisioned the team to be. And so, I joined, and I took a leap of faith, and I said to myself, it was very scary. I'll tell you, it was very, very scary. I thought to myself, this is it. This is do or die. This is like, either we're going to make it, or we are going to take the is gonna like kill me. It was kind of crazy. So I was like, yeah, I'm not sure. But I did it, It's like the moment wherein you are afraid, but you're also like really, really, you have nothing else. Like there is absolutely no a life jacket,
Mm-hmm.
There's no like boats to save you. That's when it's a very scary thought. And my other option was to give it all up, go back to my dad and beg him to take me back, because like what I thought I could do on my own failed, and now I need to come back under his umbrella. Like the whole point was I didn't want to be under his shadow, Yeah. I wanted to start something, and I wanted to prove him wrong, that I could do it. A woman in business can make it happen, can be at the leadership, And so anyways, when I joined, I was very, very scared. I was petrified. I had moments of doubt. I'm like, am I actually going to do it? Am I able to do it? I've just been in the business for 5 years. Like, am I good enough? Can I make it? Like, what commitment have I made? Like, it was really, really scary. If I were to put myself back to that moment, it was very scary. But then again, I was like, but like that, thing in your mind, that little debate between can I make it happen versus oh my gosh, I'm afraid, I'm so scared, I just want to go back to being comfortable, Mm-hmm. And but I had no other choice. I had to do it because I couldn't find somebody else.
Yeah, so it sounds like your first step, at the very foundation of this, was you were seeking mentorship mm-hmm. in a different space, because it seems like you were looking locally here in Ottawa, mm-hmm. just is there someone here to help me that will take me on to their team? And no team was to be found. You're on the hunt for transparency, no transparency to be found. And in this industry, being part of it, I mean, I could tell you everybody has a new secret. I mean, when I was in offices, the secret was the yellow pages or the phone book, whatever, and didn't feel like much of a secret to me. And in conjunction with that, the coaches that I found, it felt so inauthentic. The idea of doing a pop by, showing up at a house unannounced was just I was I will never do this to a client.
I never thought of it that way, but it's so true.
Yeah.
You're just showing up to people's homes, and they're maybe they're in their pajamas or something. They don't want to see you in that moment.
Yeah. And the coaches were pushing me, and I was oh, well, at what point do I treat them how I'd want to be treated? Because I don't want anybody coming to my house unannounced. Yeah. So anyways, it sounds like you have a very similar experience to, I think, a lot of agents out here, but also other industries that people are operating by themselves and they can't get quite a straight answer. And in Ottawa, like you said, there's so many other big dogs mm-hmm. here, I guess. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, you always feel like you're behind.
Yeah.
And one other thing is that you were finding the same tools. Mm-hmm. So that means you had more to do to set yourself apart from these other people that may have had years ahead of you, which with this mentorship, with this coaching.
Yeah.
What have you done to set yourself apart and make space for you here?
Yeah. So at first I needed to really, really commit. I said, you know what, I'm all in, because those past 4 years, I would hear all these different things. Oh, you need to have a Facebook account. Oh, you need to have a Facebook business account. And what you put in your personal account should also have some, business stuff in it, and what you put in your business has got to have some personal stuff in it. And it was very confusing. It's just like anything else. We tell like buyers and sellers, you listen to the news. One channel says it's time to buy, and another one says it's, wait off, don't buy. Prices are going to drop. So it was very confusing just like that. It's really hard, I find these days, to try to find the right information out there. And, I was hearing that. But what I loved was that I said to myself, I'm going to do it. And even, as I think we're going to get into it, but I have a whole life outside of real estate. I have responsibilities outside of real estate. So I was thinking, okay, now I have, the time that I started this whole thing, I had 3 children under the age of 10 years old. One of them was only a couple years old. Like, he just started to be somewhat independent. When I said to my husband, listen, you know what, in order for me to really make this work, and it's so funny because I like you, I truly believe in like things come together when you're like fully ready. So it was like, I was having this conversation with my husband. I'm like, you know what, now our son is like, is 2 years old. I really want to give this a real shot, real work, and make this. The only way for me to have a real shot at this is to really give it my all. And that would require for me to go into these conferences, because these conferences will allow me to meet with other people, blah, blah, blah. At that moment, I was thinking to myself, I'll be able to get to know other agents, and other agents will refer me business and things like that. That's how little I was thinking. Mm-hmm. At this point today, it's like we get so many people calling us, buyers, sellers, that we don't take them all. We don't want to take them all. We are very selective as to who we work with. That's the difference, Mm-hmm. But yeah, at that moment, I was telling my husband, I need to meet with these other agents from all across North America to be able to like make this, networking happen. But for me, at this time, it's not even the networking. It's about the knowledge. It's about knowing how to set yourself years apart. Mm-hmm. And your question when it comes to like making yourself years apart came to myself committing that, I need to really, really take my time, even if it means that I have to work when everybody else is sleeping. So during the day, I was the agent. And at night, I was the business owner and business not a business, operator, more like a business owner. Just like really, really building my business, working on my business rather than in my business. I had to do both. And it's a very steep road to climb, right? It's a mm-hmm. steep hill. It's not like this, because not only are you having to bring in income through your business, but also you're building the business. So you're on your own, baby. I had to realize that I am it, and that's it. There's nobody else. Nobody's coming. I'm on my own. So what I did was, during the day, I would help as many clients as I could. I'd take in anybody, buyers, sellers, doesn't matter, tenants, landlords. I would take in anybody and everybody. And then at night, it was like, okay, now I got to build this team, because this is how I'm able to, you can't do all of it on your own. You mm-hmm. have to do it with other people. And I made sure I knew exactly what it is that we needed to do, because for me, it's like, okay, so here I am as an agent, as somebody who is in the business doing it, right? I have my license, and it could be applied to every single business. Mm-hmm. What I know now can be applied to anything, So it's like, in fact, a lot of the stuff I learned, I end up talking to my father, who had his own very, very successful business in immigration. And the stuff I was sharing with him, he would apply to his business, and he's getting amazing results, right? So I would be like, okay, what is it that I need to focus on? What's the next step that I need to do in order to make a big impact? I tried to not focus on everything all at once. Yes, I had a picture in terms of what needs to happen. Like, here I am as an agent. I don't have a good social media. I don't have any kind of presence. Nobody knows Anna's in business.
You're not even from Ottawa.
Yeah, I'm not. Exactly. I had I had nobody, no sphere, nothing. So I was like, okay, so how do we make this happen? And by the way, at that time in Ottawa, Ottawa was not as diverse as it is today. And it's going to get even more diverse. I, as you know, live in an area where they're predominantly French speaking. So I couldn't really, get into that community. They were so into their own community. It was so hard to get in there. So I had a lot of challenges, but what I realized is that I just need to focus on the next step. Not all the different steps, but just the next step.
Yeah. So it sounds like you had a lot going on. You were working as a regular agent, day shift, then night shift, your operations strategist, everything else you want to do. I don't hear a lot of room for family in that.
Yeah.
And I think that we hear so much about balance this, balance that. I don't know if people that do truly amazing things are always balanced. I think maybe you have to start being and doing what the regular people won't do. I always look at your business, how hard you work, and everybody thinks oh, well, if I had the secrets and if I had the map, I would do it the same or better. I don't think they would even have the courage to step up and try. They knew how many hours you worked. How have you grown to be able to be more balanced? Have you always been balanced, or is this a challenge that you've been perfecting, I guess?
Yeah, so I think it comes back to, I was talking about the other day, we just lost our last living parent, so we're actually orphans as of last year. And by the way, I laugh because I've been hit so hard in life that my laughter is just a way in which I deal with stress. So a lot of people just say, oh, you're going back to, I think coming here as an immigrant and I was only 12 years old, and I remember thinking to myself at that moment, if I could just make the dollar, if I could just help my family make dollar, because our currency was thousands and thousands of that money converted into $1, it's a lot. So I was if I could just help my family, but I was only 12 years old. And I started working, I guess you're not supposed to, but at 14. And my hourly wage was $6.22. I was so happy to have some kind of work. Anyways, but it really, I valued working. It was so hard for me to actually find a work because I was so young. You have to be 16 years old legally to start working. So when I started working, it was such a good thing for me, oh my gosh, I'm finally able to, contribute to my family. And I was talking to my brother, I'm when I used to work at my dad's office, I'd start off early in the morning and finish off at night, straight. And I was a full-time student simultaneously. Because some of it was by passion, but some of it was not really. I had no other choice. If I wasn't there, my dad had to hire someone and pay minimum wage at least. And now we have less funds coming in. Whereas if I worked there, my work was technically no wage, but it was helping the family be able to gain a lot more. So even till right before I started real estate, my mom would call me and she'd be like, Anna, are you coming home for lunch? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm coming. And she'd be like, okay, what do you want me to make for you? And I was like, okay, make this food. And we were just reminiscing about my mom the other day on the phone, that's why. So I was like, oh my gosh, I would like be, sometimes I'd be like so focused at my work that I forget that I promised I'd be home in like 30 minutes. And I come home at night, and my mom's like, I'd be like, oh my gosh, did you eat? And she's like, no, I waited for you. She'd be like waiting for me to last, So me like going on days without eating, I guess it became like a habit. It's really bad, but it became a habit, and it came out of necessity, not, I don't think it came out of passion initially. It came out of necessity, but I'm just like built that way. Unfortunately or fortunately, she was like in the office at Remax, and like she would like not be eating, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you need to eat, like don't follow my way, because it's like very unhealthy. But she's like, okay, so we started like bringing in food and sharing it, it'd be like my day and it would be her day. But it's just like the way, unfortunately, I have been, and not having a balanced life. So for me, I never understood this, like this whole balanced life. I wasn't really, I guess, accustomed to it, because I didn't come from, I always tell people like I was born with a silver spoon, and then that silver spoon was soon replaced with a paper spoon when I came to Canada, so I really, really got to, I don't think my parents wanted that for us, but I think it's the best gift they gave us. It allowed me to really, really appreciate the important things, and just like work hard. I don't know anything else but that. To have a balanced life for me is like, being able at this point as a parent is like to be able to provide things for my kids, and also provide the responsibility that I'm given as like, let's say like a team leader, or like somebody of this, if I'm the founding person of this brokerage, it's like to provide those opportunities for other people that have entrusted me with like their lives. Because when you're leading, you have to really, really take that as a big responsibility. It's not to be taken, lightly, because if you don't, people will just go elsewhere,
Yeah.
So
it's like your responsibility is to provide for your family, but all of ours too.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
100%.
So you saw a challenge, and you're like addicted to overcoming things.
I really am. And I don't know, I'm just like, I feel like I am kind of built that way. And going to the route of real estate and finally finding the right path in real estate has allowed me to not only fulfill that addiction, but also like finding that, like I actually am passionate about this. Something happy. Like it's like, you know what? I'm going to do it again. And, I tell people, you've heard me say it many times. I'm like, real estate is like, now that I'm a mother, is like giving birth. You're like going through the labor. You're like, oh my God, get me the epidural. I had epidurals on every single one of them. At first, I'm like, no epidural. I'm going to go natural. And then as soon as I felt the pain, I'm like, epidural, please. I don't care if I'm going to die taking epidural. So anyways, yes, it's like going through birth. And then after, when you have the baby, you're like, you forget about everything else. You're like, okay, yeah, go ahead and stitch me up or do whatever you need to do. You don't feel the pain anymore. You're just like, yeah, I have this amazing thing. And you forget about the whole, like the bitterness of it. And that's what real estate is, like helping buyers find that home, get that home. It's like, oh, we did it. Okay, I'm so happy you did it. Or like sell that home. It's such a good feeling. It's like, wow, I made such an impact in their lives. And I love that. That feeling is what I'm addicted to. That's where, like, I think we're all addicted to. That's why we're like, yeah, I want to get there and I want to do it. And not only on the buyer and seller side, but even like, you know, like for instance, yourself, you know, it gives me so much pleasure and so much, like it fulfills me so much when I see like you are doing that, you know, what you wanted to do, you know, you are achieving your goals that you told me you wanted to do. And other people in the team, same thing. Like it's like, you know, it's like your kids, right? I know you don't have kids, but like, you know, if you have kids, if you're a parent and, you know, like when your kid gets to get that thing that they wanted and then you see them achieve it, it's such a good feeling. It's such a good feeling. And that's the same thing when it comes to the work now. It's allowed me to not only help buyers and sellers, but it's helped me feel it all around. And that is what gets me going. 16-hour day work.
Yeah.
Nonstop.
And I know you're always looking at the clock. You're like, oh my God, have I been doing it this long? Because you're like in the zone. You're in the flow state. You're tapping into what you need to do to dig deep and get it done. And a lot of it probably doesn't feel like work.
Yeah. It really truly doesn't. And, you know, to just like reinforce that, you know, I went to the States with my family, with my brother, and like we end up going to this like we arrived really late, so we had to go to this pizzeria, right? And which was all like college students, and with our kids, right, with our families, and we're like, I'm looking around and I'm like, oh my gosh, these are like I was looking at them, and in my own head I was their age. I realized, damn, I'm double your age. Like, it's crazy. It felt so, like, weird. It's like, how did time go by so fast, you know?
Yeah.
But it's because I'm, like, so focused on what it is. Like, I don't know when the days end. I really don't know. It's weird. Anyways, yeah.
Well, it's like every time there's a work anniversary, I'm like, oh my gosh, another year? Like, that was so fast.
Honestly, like the last year was the fastest that ever went by.
Yeah.
Me. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess there's obviously a ton of days where it's just like win after win because you're just like getting the fruits of your labor. Mm-hmm. If you go a while without a win, I know that work can feel hard. It feels definitely like work again. You're like, I'm spinning my tires. Like, I'm not getting any traction. Do you have any tools or strategies that you use to keep yourself going?
Is very important on those days because I'm a human too, you know, in fact, like a Gemini. So
you're more than one.
Yeah, so they put the foot in front of the other, you know, just keep going forward. But there are days that I just want to retrieve. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want to, like, what did I do? Why am I responsible for all these people? Like, why me? In which you can just off the wagon, but then I've been going on and off, but like not as constant, and like now I'm back, so you guys will see me in shape. I'm like, you know what, I have my physical disastrous for us, and then 2024 things started to get better, and then this year is like awesome already. So to go through that transition required a lot of like mindset, a lot of like digging deep into like, you know, why am I doing this after all? I could go back, but what is it? You know, is it worth it? You know, having those genuine conversations with people and be like, you know what, it's making such a difference in this person. This person is believing in me. People in the team or even clients, like how many times you've heard our clients be like, yeah, you know what, I believe you can do it. Mm-hmm. Right? can do it, even to you. You know, how many times they'd be like, you know what, thank you so much. Like, I mean, the reviews are there all across Google. Like, what a change you've made in people's lives. And then you realize that passion. I think that's when you're like, you know what? Okay, I'll do it again. One more time. Let's try it. You know what? Okay, I'll do it again. One more time. Let's try it. Maybe I can do it right. You know, always trying to find that responsibility for whatever's happened is very important, instead of saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, their circumstance made me, you know, like instead saying, you know what? I take responsibility. Let's maybe focus on this piece and try to, you know, fix this. So that's part of it. Part of like digging yourself out of the darkest place, because ultimately, like, I find whenever you're in a business and it's not like a family business, when you go home, people don't quite get it. And I feel like whatever you say, sometimes it's what your family says. It's like, if you say, I feel like it's amazing, they're like, it's amazing. You know? So definitely for me, I look back on those reviews. That's why I ask for them. I'm like, please give me something to look back on to remember. On those days.
Days. And also it's like, I can't quit because I'll spend my whole life wondering what if.
Oh my gosh, that is huge. That is huge. I think what ifs are important. And the other thing for like thinking like, you know, I could, so the what ifs is like, what if I did it this way? What if I tried it that way? What if I met this person? What if I was so close? What if I, like, you know, a few years down the line, I see somebody that I started with is like now that person, like, how would I feel? And then the other thing is like the fear of, you know, like going back to that hunger mode. You know, I think one of the biggest and valuable experiences to me are all the failures I've had, all the things that I didn't have is what pushed me and continues to push me. That void that I've felt and I feel for certain things is what pushes me, because it's like I don't want to not have anything and just like think about that, you know, I don't have, like, you know, it's not, and I'm not talking about materialistic because you know me, but I think like to the viewers, it's like, so it's like, you know, the days that I think of them and I miss them the most are the days that I am I'm alone, or like I have the most amount of time. So part of like me getting through life and like combos, you know, like drink, fries, and a burger. And for us, know that if I order something, we're gonna have a problem paying rent this month. So I was like, nothing. I'm not hungry. I mean, come on, which teenager is not hungry at a McDonald's? So, and I said, I don't want anything. And my brother said the same thing. And we were like, you know what, we'll just get like small fries. And that memory for me is something that really, really, you know, on days that I feel like, oh my gosh, I've lost everything, I like, that's where I go back. I dig deep and I'm like, you know what? I'm not there. I'm not that person, that like for small fries, we had to share, the three of us plus my mom. Mm-hmm. And I think, you would think, oh, you know what? I felt bad for myself when I think about it. No, as I think bad about like how my mom would have felt at that moment, Yeah. Like, can you imagine? A parent, which by the way, she was a doctor back home. Like she had drivers for her. Here she's like, oh my gosh, my kids know our financial situation. And even them, I have to say, okay, sure. We have to put this face in front of everybody and say, oh, sure. Yeah, we don't want to, let's just get fries to just be with you guys and sit here. Like,
yeah,
that's where I dig into to get me through those crappy days.
Yeah. So it's a lot of like, you've already come so far. Like you're not in that seat anymore. You're not ordering one combo. Also for your family, you've been able to provide like more than enough.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting because you think at that point you'd be like, well, I'm comfortable. I mean, I've been in worse places, but you could still tap into that hunger and be like, I'm still hungry right now. Actually,
it's the fear. It's the fear, it's the fear of, oh my gosh, like you have been blessed with this opportunity. And what? You're going to just say, I don't want it. I just want to go back to being that.
Yeah.
No, of course not. We got to push. You
can never go back.
Can never go back. And I think like that is what I, that pushes me to want to go forward, want to do more. And not just for myself, for other people too. And it's like those experiences has allowed me to also really, when I talk to people, like that's how I feel them because I was there. I experienced that firsthand. It's not through a book. I actually experienced that. So that's what, when I say like I was born with a silver spoon, but it was like switched over to a paper spoon or whatever you want to call it. Like that's literally what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to be wrapping it up. So if you have one thing that you want to leave people with, a lot of them are probably in a dark place right now, maybe have never seen the light, never seen the success yet. What kind of sentiment would you want to leave them with?
I say, like, believe in yourself. First and foremost, you've got to believe in yourself. And, you have to know, and you've probably heard it many, many times, but I really truly believe this is what it is. You gotta, I'm just like you. I may be just a few steps ahead. But what I do is I say, like, why am I doing this? What is my reason for taking on this pain?
Yeah.
Like, why? What will happen if I don't? And what will happen if I do? And, lean on the positive. You got to be positive. You have to have a good attitude because it's not that life isn't going to throw stuff at you. It's how you react towards that, whatever that situation is. So that situation may be, really, really great. And obviously we all know how to deal with that. But there are situations that are not so great and you got to lean into that. You got to be like, you know what, stay positive, react positively. That is not going to be there forever. Things are going to change and, things are going to improve.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Sharing the secrets.
Yes. Oh my gosh. You asked some questions there. I felt like, better not cry today.
There'll be more.
Yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Wow.
Yes.